Okay, welcome to No CS Degree. This is the show for self-taught developers and people that have been to coding bootcamps, and it's where I find out how they've become successful. I'm joined today by Addy, who's attending the Boolean coding bootcamp at the moment online. I should say as well that this episode is being kindly sponsored by Boolean, so if you check them out, they're a great place to learn to code. Go to boolean.co.uk and you can find out tons of information about their courses. Okay, Addy, so how come you started to learn to code in the first place?
Well, I think the original sort of genesis of it was I had been working at a call center here in Glasgow for about 4 or 5 years. I kind of got tired of that, decided to leave, and I really wasn't sure what to do at all. During that time, I was doing the normal stuff, just kind of going out with mates, watching a lot of TV, watching YouTube and things like that. And one day I'm sitting there and watching YouTube, and I was just like, I use these machines all the time. Like, I'm always using my computer, I'm always on the phone, X, Y, and Z. And I was just thinking, like, this is pretty much the way things are going. Wouldn't it be maybe a good idea to look into learning how to do some of this stuff? Maybe it'll be interesting, it might be fun. And so I decided to start kind of looking into it. So originally what happened, I went on Codecademy, the website, and I did a little bit of their Python 2 course. And this was just before Python 3 came out. Then after that, I was getting emails from them, and there was a link in the email about CodeBar. So then I signed up to that, and I started going to some of the CodeBar meetings here in Glasgow. I met more experienced programmers. Basically, they kind of helped me in terms of showing me other things to do, better ways to write code, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And that was kind of where it started, and that was just something I did a little bit here and there. So I always say, like, oh yeah, I was coding for about 2 years before this course started, but it's not really 2 years because I was just doing it every now and again when I had spare time, because I was still looking for like a proper job so that I could like live. And so I actually got another job working as a basically, this is sort of like an admissions officer type thing for apprenticeships around west of Scotland. So I used to go to businesses, induct employees into these little courses that were, I suppose they were roughly like HNC or HND level sometimes type courses. And they would basically have one of our sort of tutors go out and give them assessments. They would do the assessments. The tutors would mark them. If they needed more help to basically pass, they would tell them, you need to do X and Z and that kind of thing. But mainly for me, I was on the end of getting them set up with Skills Development Scotland and just sorted out in that kind of way for funding and so on. But also in the background, I was still doing a little bit here and there with the coding, and it was like slowly growing into this kind of thing in the background that I was getting quite interested in. So once the pandemic happened and basically I was out of a job because you can't go to businesses anymore, right? I was just, again, thinking, okay, right, I know a decent amount now. Let me try and actually do this seriously. I started going for a cybersecurity course, but I don't think I applied quite quick enough. And they told me I would get a chance on the next go round. So I was like, okay, I'll wait for that. And while I was waiting for that, this came up just randomly, opportunity to come on to this course. I went for it, was successful. It was like, okay, let's give it a bash. Let's see where this goes. And yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool, man. From call centers to learning to code. I think that's, sounds like a much more fun way to be spending your time.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, I know I've got a few friends that worked in call centers, and I didn't hear great things. So yeah. So what was the application process like for getting into Boolean?
So first of all, after I had given my details, obviously that kind of thing, they had an assessment to do. So I can't remember how many questions it was exactly, but kind of logical thinking questions. So pattern recognition stuff, some basic, well, not basic. There was one complicated question for me anyway, and generally then other sort of maths questions and things like that. So you do that, then if you score well in that, you then move on to the sort of admissions interview with Patrick. Or, well, I'm not sure who it will be now, but for me it was with Patrick, and that was actually really relaxed. It was just a conversation, just talking about kind of the same type of things we are talking about actually. So why I've started coding, kind of what my experience with coding has been like, and those types of things, just to see kind of why you're taking the course and maybe how motivated you're going to be to go through with it, that type of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really cool, man. So what was the first couple of things that you started to learn on the course with Boolean?
So when we started, we went into HTML at first, which was one of the big reasons why I wanted to take the course after speaking to Patrick, because that was the kind of thing that I didn't have any idea about, is the front end side of things. So I was interested to learn about it. So it was just basic HTML stuff. So teaching us about elements, what they do, how they appear on a page. Then also looking to build in some CSS with that. So like how you can edit these elements on the page and that kind of thing. So the first sort of week, I'm sure the little things are still up on GitHub as well, of like the exercises we did and some of the abominable things that I made in that first week. And yeah, it's like just basically putting together the elements to make a web page. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds good. So you got started with GitHub pretty quickly then?
Yeah, I think that was maybe day 2 or 3. I already had one, luckily, so I didn't need to make a new one. But yeah, they were kind of straight into that, because that's how they kind of check the exercises that you're doing and that kind of thing, so that they can give feedback.
Yeah, I think that's really good for developers, because it's like that's what you'll be using when you're on the job. So you may as well like dive in and get used to it early on, and that way you'll be like job ready for employers, because you'll already know about, GitHub and pull requests, and basically fitting in nicely with a team that's already up and running. So what did you learn after the basics? Can you talk us through, like, have you done much stuff with like React or anything like that?
Yeah, so the way that it went was we started off with the HTML and CSS. After going through that, then we did some JavaScript. So we actually did make stuff just plain JavaScript, nothing else, which was interesting. Then we were kindly introduced to React, which made things a lot more streamlined, I suppose is the easiest way of putting it. So we are generally using React even now for all the front end needs and things like that. I know that there are other sort of, how we would call it, clients, frameworks, if you will. So I'm kind of interested maybe to look at things like Vue. I don't know about Angular. There seems to be a split on that, but I'm kind of interested to maybe see some other ways of doing things. But I do quite like React, to be honest. We've been taught it, and there's a learning curve, obviously, because there's a lot to take in, and it is quite, what's the word? It is quite sort of opinionated, I would say. It wants you to do things a specific way, but once you get past that, it's absolutely amazing as far as I'm concerned, because of the fact that it's reactive, So yeah,
yeah,
really
that's
enjoying
awesome, man. I think it's good though that they walked you through like kind of plain JavaScript, because I mean I've got friends that are like work at tech companies as CTOs, and they're hiring people, and they sometimes say like, okay, how would you do this in like plain JavaScript or whatever, and a lot of people don't have a clue. a lot of people, especially people that are relatively new to coding, like might know how to do it amazingly in Vue or React, but you know, it's good to have the fundamentals. Is all I'd say, because you're probably going to be using more React in the job, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to be able to like know the basics of like vanilla JavaScript in case that you get asked in an interview, for example.
I would even like go back to that point and say, on top of what you've just said, it actually helped with my ability to use React as well, because knowing that you can select the document and then find things allows you to change certain things that maybe aren't so simple to find using React at times. So I definitely remember in one exercise that we had, I did reuse it so that I could basically deselect a bunch of checkboxes really quickly without having to do, I don't know, I would have had to have wrote a much more code basically. So it is important to, as you say, have that understanding of how to edit the document using just the plain JavaScript.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's awesome. That's cool, man. So obviously you've been like working through this course with Boolean remotely. So can you talk us through what a typical day looks like?
Yeah, sure. So we pretty much start 9:30 every morning. We meet up together in our little Zoom meeting room, give the hellos, good mornings, and all that, and then we talk about what we're going to be doing that day. If it's lectures, then we pretty much go straight into the lectures, and we'll be doing that from 9:30 to earliest finish is normally 12:30, but more often 1 o'clock or 1 really. And sometimes there might even be an extra sort of thing in the afternoon as well if we need an extra help or if it's a big topic type of thing. So there's a lot of sort of lectures in the morning type thing. Then in the afternoon, you're going to get your exercises. So the instructors are available for you from 3 till 6. And essentially, you just go through those exercises later on in the day. So it's quite flexible as well. If you have something you need to do between 3 and 6, I mean, you don't need to do it right then and there. You can obviously, you're not going to have the help of the instructors if you don't, but you can go away and deal with other things and then come back in the evening, and do what you need to do to get as far into the exercise as you can. And what I really love about it is that they allow you that freedom to do what you need to do to learn what you feel you need to learn on the exercises. It's not like they're going to come back to you and be like, why didn't you do exactly this thing or exactly that thing? It's more like go and just experiment, play, because they're trying to get you to learn intuitively, which I think is really, really cool. So that's a general day. We do also have the projects, so it's a little bit different because we're really near the end. We just finished the project. We're now starting another project, and those days are quite loose. So you will have a stand-up in the morning, which I think is quite similar to jobs, right? So you get up, you talk about what you did yesterday, things that you might have struggled with, and what you're planning to do today. And then after that, really, it's just go, 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 you try and get as much done as you can and try and work through your problems as best as you can and just keep going.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really cool, man. What kind of projects have you been making then?
So I think the first project in HTML, I did like a kind of eatery type thing. So it was like a diner type thing. So I had courses that you would be able to purchase, that type of thing. Then did something really similar again for the JavaScript one. So we had like as a recipe finder. So we used an API, external API, and you could search through this API to find meals. And if you clicked on the meal that appeared on the page, then you would be taken to another page that showed you like the recipe of how to make it. Then for React, I had a playlist editor. So again, I used another external API, and essentially you could log in as a user So you're creating your own sort of account and then go and look for songs or albums or whatever and add them to your playlist. And then this, oh, I missed out the sort of Express Node.js project. So with that one, we did a football sort of database type thing where essentially you could check like leagues, and when you check the leagues, you're able to see information about the different leagues. You check players, information about the players, teams, information about the teams, and all these things were sort of interlinked because obviously the leagues have some of the teams then have players, and also the managers were in there as well. You could check the managers, you could see their previous teams, that kind of thing. So there was that. Then the last one that we just finished doing was another music type one where we had a sort of like Discogs style thing where, again, you can log yourself in or sign up as a user, and then you can list like anything that you've got to sell in terms of music, and it would then appear as a listing, and that would be available for other users to buy. And when they purchase, it goes into the transactions for those users, so the user can see what they've purchased and also what they've sold as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really cool, man. Lots of cool projects. I think, especially like the music one sounds really cool. Is there any kind of like technology that you've learned that is your favorite? Like, do you prefer front end or back end, or are you not really fussed?
That's a really interesting question that I feel I should have a better answer to. I would say I probably tend towards the back end just because I had like that was kind of what I was looking at when I was on my own, so it feels naturally what I'm comfortable with, whereas the front end stuff is so new to me that I'm still a little bit like, and I've never been like a great design person. I'm not very artsy, so that kind of it makes it difficult for me sometimes with my confidence. I'm like, does this look good? Is this all right? That type of thing. But I do feel like I would like to continue to try and do things full stack because it is really nice seeing the journey from sort of beginning to end kind of thing. So I think I'd like to continue kind of working on both sides of things, but if I had to pick, I would probably go for the back end.
Okay, nice one. Yeah, I mean, I figure that makes sense if you're already, kind of had a basis in Python beforehand. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you have any like specific kind of like companies or sectors that you'd like to work in when you're finished with Boolean?
Yeah, so I mean, I am quite interested in fintech. It would be something that I wouldn't, I wouldn't mind at all kind of going into, but I am fairly open as well, although I have a partiality for that just because when I was in Edinburgh, I think that's maybe what you've heard about me. I used to live in Edinburgh when I was studying there, and so I studied accountancy and finance, so I've got a bit of a background with that. I understand it, and I feel like that would be really cool to mix those two things together. And I already kind of, when I started off, that was one of the first things I did. Is like I made a function in Python for like looking at calculating people's tax and things like that. So I am interested in that, and it would be cool to work in that sector. But I'm pretty open-minded. There are lots of interesting things out there to do, and I think anybody that does what we are doing likes to learn. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think as well, like Edinburgh, where I'm based, has got like obviously like a really good like fintech sector. So I think like it seems like a good fit. So yeah, hopefully you can get a job over here soon. What was it about like Boolean specifically that made you choose it versus say, you started off learning on your own, for instance? How come you chose to go with Boolean in the first place?
I think the main thing was I was looking at the front end type of stuff. So I'd started to learn HTML, and it wasn't going great. I'll be honest. I was finding it kind of tricky, and when the chance came up, I just thought, I may as well give it a go, because I was feeling like my progress could be quicker, and I basically just wanted it to be quicker. And I thought that, it doesn't hurt to have people to help you. And I felt at the time when I was going to the code bar groups as well, that my progress was quicker because I was interacting with people. But then with COVID, we weren't meeting in person as such. It was more online, and they were also a bit less frequent as well. So, well, at least the Glasgow or Scottish-based ones, because sometimes they would do them in Edinburgh-based as well, sort of virtual. So I was kind of like, I've got nothing to lose here, so I may as well have a go at it. And, yeah, I think definitely from my experience now with hindsight as well, I would definitely say that there's no way that it won't help, because it was a very lonely thing before, if that makes sense. Like, it was kind of like isolated on an island type of thing, because yeah, you're learning this thing and it's really cool, and when you make something, you're very happy, but you've no one that you can really share it with, because yeah, I've got friends, but they don't understand what I'm talking about when I explain these things, unless like I show them something cool. Like if I make like a form in HTML and they're like, "Whoa, that looks really cool," and I'm like, "It doesn't even do anything. It's just it's just a form."
Yeah.
They don't get it. So like so I have no one to share the passion with. Whereas now I've met all these people on my cohort, and I'm sure that I'm going to keep in touch with all those people. I've got the instructors that taught me who I'm going to keep in touch with as well. So it's like I've built a little community. I've met so many people. It's been really, it has been a really positive thing. And also, in terms of like the main thing of learning, it's supercharged it, because I think I was okay before. Like, I understood some things and I was learning and whatnot, but not only did I learn front end stuff, but my general understanding of the sort of basic concepts around coding have improved. So like I'm a bit rusty with Python, but I'm going to go back to it as soon as we're finished because I really like using it. And when I go back, there are certain things that I've picked up that are going to help me immensely, like really, really quite a lot, with things that I already have sitting there. So, I would just say thank you, to be honest, to them, because it's been a really great journey.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it sounds like you've got like a really good tech stack on the go with kind of like React and Node and a bit of Python as well. Is there anything that you like hope to learn in the future?
Yeah, so I have been thinking about it, to be honest. Yeah, I know. It actually is as well. There's so many things. But I've really been eyeing up C++. I mean, I do want to kind of just learn as much as possible, and C++ feels like it might be the next thing to try and look into, because in terms of sort of things like robotics and things like that, that seems to be like the language. So it'd be cool to learn a bit of that, see how it works, and kind of jump down that rabbit hole as well. But part of me as well feels like I should try and sharpen up on the things that I know as well, so that I can be a well-rounded candidate for work going forward just now. And I'll have loads of time to kind of roll around in the C world and all these other languages, so many of them, things like Haskell and all that. So yeah,
I think like maybe they would probably be good further down the road, and then you can make those like scary robots that know how to like open doors and shit. And you can like take over the human race with those robots. So, but we'll like leave that for another day. But you're saying like you've met like a lot of people in the course. So like, how do you kind of like socialize with people, if you see what I mean, online with?
Oh yeah, I get you. So generally, we just kind of Boolean have set up actually 2 servers now. So There's the main server for all the students and the instructors on the course. And so each class has its own channel. So we've got a channel where we can post stuff in our classroom. We've got a support channel. We've got little pairing booths as well. So if you want to pair a program with people, you can. Then everybody is also able to converse together, no matter what sort of class you're in. You can go to the big group sort of channels where I think it's about 6, but there's one room that takes 12 for some reason. I don't know why there's double in that one, but these big rooms where lots of people can kind of join in and talk and share video and their screens and all that kind of thing. And then we've got some other threads as well, so you can talk about things that you've been watching, reading, if you've been playing games, if you want to talk about some cool code thing that you saw, all these types of things. So it's generally through the Discord server, but as well we just kind of message each other, to be honest. We just talk to each other. So yeah,
nice one. So last question: if you met someone that was interested in coding and wanting to learn to code, how would you sell them on the benefits of learning to code?
That's a great question. In terms of that, I would say, if you are, it depends as well, because the person might be doing something else, and there are lots of useful things that you can do with your time and with your life. But if you're stuck for something to do and you are kind of thinking, what can I do with my life? I think this is a great avenue to go down, first of all, because it's one of the most sort of freely giving communities in terms of learning. Because if you want to learn something when it comes to coding, there's always someone to ask. Even when I did not have access to this course, I still learned from loads of people. I have learned from people, as I said, from CodeBar. I've learned from people that post stuff on Stack Overflow, that post things on Quora. I've learned from a tutorial by a guy called Miguel Grunberg all about Flask, which is absolutely amazing. And all these resources are completely free. That is unprecedented to be given that level of knowledge. And the only thing that you need to bring is that willingness to actually sit down and learn. That's really, really uncommon. So that's one of the best things about this sort of career path, is that everything's out there for you. You've just got to go and find it, basically. And also the fact that a lot of the technologies are open source themselves as well, meaning that you can actually be a contributor, which I think is really cool as well. If you see something that you think is broken, you can literally go to the GitHub repo where it exists and create a pull request, and they'll look at it and see if you've got a decent fix. And if it's good, they're probably going to add it. So you can make your own part of history as well, which I think is so cool. And it doesn't require you to, as your podcast is called, you don't need a degree. You don't need to be some sort of special somebody. You just need to see a problem and think of a way to fix it. And that's really the ethos of being a developer, being a software engineer, is you see a problem and you try to fix it. That's what it's all about. And if you like fixing problems, then this is the thing for you to do, basically.
Cool. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. So yeah, that's a really cool description about the benefits of learning to code. Where can people find you online? Do you have Twitter or GitHub or anything?
Yeah, so I'm pretty bad for the social media. They're slowly prodding me in the right direction. But I'm not a big fan, but I do have a LinkedIn. So if you search at LinkedIn for Ademola Fabui, then you would find me there. In terms of GitHub, my GitHub handle is BrokenSythe, which is BrokenSythe, and you'll be able to see bunch of my repos from all the classes that I've done, and I think that I'm gonna go away and find some of the Flask things as well and add them, because I may as well now that I've got it, you know what I mean. And it's a nice little thing, because I followed the tutorial that Miguel Grunberg did, and I've got that kind of sitting there, and I added a little delete button as well to show that I've actually understood what he was trying to teach people. So yeah, and hopefully maybe add a bit more onto that. But that's really cool, and as well, that would be useful if anyone is interested in learning Flask. That's a really great resource, I think, because it teaches you a lot of concepts. Some of them maybe a bit too advanced because I didn't understand everything at the beginning. I think I understand a little bit better now, but it definitely is quite a comprehensive view of things, which is great, just so that you can see how much actually goes into building websites, because you don't have a clue when you're using them quite how much is going on behind the scenes. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I guess additional question, do you find yourself going on websites now just being like, oh, why that button looks terrible, or like, oh, why is this, does UX so bad, or like, oh, this is taking ages to load? Because I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's actually shocking now. Like, I was out with my friends, right? We were at the pub and we were getting something to eat, and the card machine was taking ages to hit like the database or something like that, and I was like, that poorly coded backend.
Yeah, totally.
As if I know how to do it.
Yeah, you should totally just take that code apart. Yeah, I find it with banks especially bad. I think like the bank I use, it's like quite often just reloads really horribly, and just like things just, I don't know, lots of media sites as well, like old newspapers, their websites are just really jumpy, and the content just jumps around all the time. It's not good. But yeah, it's the kind of like curse of being a developer. I guess it's the same with anything. Once you learn something, you can notice when other people do it badly. So you're just like, if you spend a lot of time on the web like I do, you're constantly just looking at stuff and just being like, oh, I changed that button, I changed that layout, and blah blah blah. But yeah, anyway, enough of me complaining about the internet. Thanks for joining us for this call. It's been really interesting. You can check out more information about Boolean at boolean.co.uk, and I'll add your GitHub and LinkedIn links to the description so people can find you there and like spy on your code and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks again for joining us, Addy. It's been really good to talk to you.